Welcome back. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. We now want to take a look at today's financial markets. We're joined by Head of Treasury from Nedbank Eswatini, Ibongani. A very good afternoon, Ibongani. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in, for coming through today. So what's happening in the markets? What effect has Donald Trump being the president-elect of the U.S. has on the markets?
Yeah, good afternoon, Lulu. Good afternoon to your viewers. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Quite a bit has happened in the past week since we last spoke. As you rightfully say, you've had the election of Donald Trump as the 45th president of the U.S., and you've also had last week, Wednesday, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates by 25 basis points. That was pretty much expected by the market. And you've had a number of other global developments, including the fall of the coalition government in Germany. All of those have had quite a bit of an effect. But I think the big moment has been the election of Donald Trump, and that has had a ripple effect across markets. And I think we can go into it and see what effect that's had across the different asset classes.
Yes, I see today the Lilangen is trading 18 amalangeni against the US dollar, quite high today. What happened there?
Yes, definitely, and I think that's again a byproduct of the election of Mr. Trump last week. So we're actually we see the Langeni at 18.02 today, which is down about 0.58%. Against the euro, the Langeni is at 19.01, which is down about half a percentage point. There again, and the same story is true against the pound, where the Langeni is weaker by about just shy of half a percentage point. And we've seen the Langeni weaken since the election of Mr. Trump. And actually, just to put things into context, we've seen it rebound a bit today. The 18.02 levels can be seen as a bit high, but if you take that into context, you know that, for instance, today we opened at 18.08, which is higher than where we are now. And yesterday we opened at 17.95, but we ended during the day we weakened we saw the Langeni weakened to levels of about 18.18. So it is strengthening a bit and paring back some of those losses. The big story today is really around the U.S. inflation numbers, which are expected this afternoon, and there's also expectations around what the Federal Reserve is going to do now that we have seen the election of Mr. Trump and the effect of his policies on the dollar and on global markets. And a lot of it is around how the nominees into Mr. Trump's government are mostly hardliners from a trade perspective. So that and a lot of the policies are really inflationary. So that is driving the dollar strength, and it is driving the inverse, which is the weakness of the Langeni.
Okay, so just to get into the euros, I think I saw a report yesterday saying that the European Central Bank alerted banks in Europe that there could be U.S. trade wars with the U.S. What's happening there?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that's, again, an effect of the nominees that Mr. Trump has put forward, or the people who are likely to be part of his government, who are seen as hardliners from a trade perspective. And that could spark the return of trade wars in the form of tariffs being levied across different types of goods and services that are from other parts of the world, being Europe, being China, being Africa, etc. And that, as a result, has seen all other currencies except the dollar weaken against the greenback. So that's the effect of that. Also, what's been affecting the euro, as I mentioned earlier, is the collapse of the coalition government in Germany. We have seen that, and that we have seen the euro sort of react to that. And then the result of that is that there's a bit of disagreement on whether Germany has to suspend what they call the debt brake in Germany, and that's partly what led to the collapse of that government. From a pound perspective, what we saw is that the pound is actually near 3-month lows against the dollars, but the data is showing that there's easing UK inflation, which is affecting the effect of that currency.
Okay, so moving on to commodities, gold today is trading at $2,600 per ounce, and Brent crude oil stands at 73.63 per barrel dollars. What's happening today? Looks quite good. The-
Yeah, that's correct, Lulu. You're seeing a slight rebound in the gold price, but to put things into perspective, the gold price is near 7-week lows after the Trump win. This is because after the win of Mr. Trump, you saw the dollar rally and people move away from gold as a safe haven asset. From a Brent crude perspective, crude is also near the lowest levels this month. The big focus now is on demand outlook for oil. And this is on the back of news that OPEC has cut its projections for output based on a slowdown in the Chinese economy.
Okay. So just lastly, quickly going through the equities, S&P 500 trading at $5,900 today. What's happening there?
Yeah, thanks. So the S&P 500 closed the trading day yesterday about 0.3% lower, and we saw that there was a bit of a paring back of the rally that the S&P 500 has been on since the election outcome last week. But there's interesting data that's come out, which is that investors in the US have highest exposure to US stocks since 2013. So that's very, very interesting. Across other equities markets, the FTSE is down about half a percentage point, and the JSE All Share Index is down about a third of a percent.
Okay.
The big news that's going to move markets today is the outcome of the CPI, or the US inflation numbers, which is expected this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Any more additional data we can expect this afternoon or the rest of the week?
I think the big news is really around the US inflation numbers, which are coming out. And those are going to be important, especially as we look into the rest of the year and look into guidance on monetary policy, especially from a US Federal Reserve perspective. The previous expectation was that we are in a declining interest rate environment, but the election of Mr. Trump and his potentially inflationary policies, it might change the trajectory of interest rates, and we might see less interest rate cuts than we were previously expecting, and that's going to be interesting to watch.
All right, very interesting. Thank you for coming through, Bongani. That was Head of Treasury at Nedbank Eswatini. Bongani taking us through the financial markets this afternoon. Let's go for an ad break. Stop by stop at